After Lee Hyun had been robbed of 3 billion won, he did not have the strength to do anything. He was hit by a wave of helplessness. However, on the third day after being robbed, he stood up. There was hope, so he could not sit and hesitate. A smile casually drifted to Lee Hyun's mouth. Amidst the tears, laughter emerged. It was a moment, the experience of having a large sum of money, that enlightened him just a little about how to live in the world.
Right, if I earned once, I can earn twice.
Although there was still 90 million won left over, this did not mean he could use all of it. Because the contract to buy the house was already signed, 50 million won was set aside. He could cancel, but he would have to pay a penalty. He would rather die than pay the penalty. Ultimately, the amount he had left over was only 40 million won, all thanks to the real estate slump in the early 21st century. Using part of the remaining money, Lee Hyun registered in martial arts halls such as aikido, kendo, and taekwondo. He placed himself on a rigorous schedule, going to as many as 6 places per day. Through the process of breaking his body down at the various gyms, he mastered martial arts. The instructors there called him the Wild Beast. He swung his sword all day long enough for blood to flow from his hands, building up his body.
Virtual reality gaming.
A place where a person moves their body as they do in real life. So, would learning martial arts and studying the game system a little more not give her players an advantage? Of course, those who learned martial arts would only have a slight advantage. But it was still better to learn martial arts to be stronger even at level 1. Imagine being at least 10% stronger throughout the game and the advantages it could provide. Because of that, Lee Hyun learned martial arts during the day and studied current virtual reality games in the evening. The questions, which game had the most users, and how the game system worked, were thoroughly studied. For every profession, city, and skill, Lee Hyun made analysis tables and pinned them to the walls of his room. 1 year, Lee Hyun learned martial arts and studied virtual reality games. This 1-year period wasn't just a preparation period. It was also used to observe the development of Royal Road closely. The virtual reality game Lee Hyun chose at the end was, as expected, Royal Road, which, like its name, walked the path of the Emperor with serenity. With over 75% of the world's game market share, more than 90% of Korean gamers play this game. Especially during the War of Kings broadcast, it reached a point where it overwhelmed the viewership of all other networks. Royal Road was the only game in the world where anybody could obtain fame, power, and money. It was the result of an ingenious system interlocking with virtual reality.
Great, all according to plan. Lee Hyun's cold eyes stared at the monitor.
That day, he purchased a capsule used to connect to Royal Road for 10 million won. It was expensive enough that tears seeped out, but he constantly reminded himself it was a necessary investment. All preparations finished. It was the beginning of the game. Lee Hyun felt like a soldier heading onto the battlefield.
Connect to Royal Road?
Yes, no. When the message came, Lee Hyun shouted without any hesitation.
Yes.
End of Volume 1, Chapter 1. To be continued.